What's up, guys? This is Harv with Harv's Corner. Today, we're going to go over big mod. We're going to go over Kraken's Better Dinos. This is a really big mod that is going to take a little bit of time. I'm not going to go over every little detail of this mod, mainly because it'll take forever if we decide to do that. We don't have the time for the video would be hours long if that was the case. However, I got a comment from our Eco Roman mod review from David Abreu, I believe is how you pronounce it. Abreu? I'm not sure. David, if I mispronounced it, let me know. But he commented back asking, saying that we should do Kraken's Better Dinos. I've really wanted to be doing this one. I've actually been wanting to use it for a long time, and I was really wanting to do a mod review on it. It's a very big mod, so this is going to take a long time. So again, I'm not going to go over every single thing that this mod includes, but I will give you the links on the Steam Workshop and a quick link that should give you the rundown of basically how everything works in a bit more detail. What we're going to go over is a good deal of the dinos and a bit of the items, but again, we're going to have the links in the description to get to everything. Kraken's Better Dinos is a huge overhaul. It's a huge overhaul of it is exactly how David mentioned it in that mod review. It is basically a huge TLC for every creature that's in the current Ark universe. Everything from the island to extinction as of right now. Like every creature in some way, shape, or form has been tweaked, and all of it so far that I've seen and got to play around with has been better. There's also a bit more items, a few more consumables that really changed the name of the game a little bit for us. But we're going to jump right into it. So you're going to have access to this Better Dino smithy. Now, the smithy can be toggled between a smithy and a preserver. The smithy will do everything that a normal smithy does, but you'll have access to a few things. And a few things to note, you can actually make costumes. You can make the old Scorpion costume. You can make the Corrupted Dino costume. There's also ammo in here for a barrel of monkeys and for an oil barrel. These both apply to the Gigantopithecus, the Bigfoot, and we'll go into how that works later on. There's a slew load of extra saddles. There's raft extensions for your rafts to make your rafts bigger. There's a lot. There's a lot. We can also toggle this to a preserver, and once we did, we can open it back up, and it'll act like a normal preserver, but it also has some extra benefits to it. You can make shark repellent. You can make different types of meats for taming. You can make different taming resources for different types of animals. You can make imitation wyvern milk. Things to rotten gloop. This is actually a cool one. I like this one. So it's basically, so a lot of your carrion feeders, things that eat spoiled meat, don't really have anything. You got spoiled meat or kibble. It's the only option. This is a halfway point between those two. So it's not quite as good as kibble, but it's better than just giving it normal spoiled meat. So a lot of your insect tames or things like vultures would be a little bit better to tame with. The equivalent to nameless venom is in here as well. There's a lot. There's a lot. You can tame leeches. You can tame lampreys with the blood, and that's just really the tip of the iceberg. That's in general some of the items. There's also platform saddle extensions as well. So not just your raft extensions, but extensions for your platform saddles. And a few dinos in here actually get small platform saddles. So because this mod goes over every single creature, again, this video would be hours long if I had to go over every single one of them. So what I'm really going to do is try to break this down to the more commonly used, either commonly used tames or really big changes to some of the current tames that you might have passed up before, but maybe with this mod that you won't. So I'm going to show you some of them, but I'm also going to mention a lot of them too at the same time. Hopefully this doesn't last too terribly long. I'm trying to keep this video short, but I don't know. This might be a long one. All right. So first up is the Ankylosaurus. Obviously, and don't be surprised that a lot of these dinos still look the same, but they do not act the same. So if you'll notice, you'll see the little Better Dinos thing up in the corner to let me know. But you just see that I just hopped off the Ankylo and he auto harvests much like the Doedicurus does. If he's in range to hit stuff, he'll auto harvest by himself. So the other added bonuses to this guy, they take less damage to their head and to the rest of their reduced overall damage. They still take damage to the head or to the legs, but the idea is that the shell takes less damage. And as you can see, he just auto harvests by himself or herself. It's a her. I'm sorry. They get a weight reduction on more things. So originally it was just metal, which was nice for the anklo, but you use the anklos to mine a lot of your stuff for you. So what you end up with is something that gets more weight benefits, more weight dump on a lot of things. Specifically obsidian. It gets a 75% weight reduction to obsidian. It also will auto harvest stuff up to 75% of its inventory. So wild anklos on their own will actually drop tough hide for you. Tough hide is used to make Valerian reins, which we'll talk about later of how they act and what they do. There's a couple of extra items in here, and we'll go over that too. So that's the anklo. The other thing to note, the tail animation for mining is considerably quicker. And I just ticked off that Bronto. That might have been a good idea. All right, so next up is the Urano, the typical spider. Doesn't look too much different. So the saddle looks, I think the saddle looks a little bit different than the normal one does. Anyway, hopping on this dude. So they're cool ones. This is one of those ones that got some cool abilities, which is the insects in this game need much love. The invertebrates do. So here's one of the cool abilities. I can climb on walls now. And if you notice, and it doesn't mess with my stamina at all. So see, I take stamina when I'm running. But if I hop up the wall, I don't take any. And it's toggled to either your left trigger or your right click, depending on what you're using. You have a jump ability. As you can see, I move a lot faster. And even though this is a 225, you can tell that the weight is a lot higher too. So some of these stats got bumped up for him as well. The other thing to note, it also has a gender, so you can breed them too. So you can breed them for better stats. And you also have the web attack, which is treated like a bola attack. It immobilizes creatures for about 20 seconds, and it works on things, slightly larger creatures than a normal bola would work on as well. The speed is increased, the stamina is better. All in all, this makes creatures like this a bit more useful. It also increases the spoil times of meats that are inside of its inventory, and you can harvest silk off of corpses of these guys. So that's the Urano, the new spider. You'll notice a lot of love get added to the insects in here, thank God. All right, so we got two up next we're going to talk about real quick. We're going to talk about the Archaeopteryx, which is it's pretty much the same thing it was before. You pick this guy up and you can use him to hang glide around. However, the nice thing about it is that you don't need your hands when you're doing this. He just sits on my shoulders now. Check that out. They sit on my shoulders. You still jump, and it gives you hands free this way. So I can have tools equipped, I can have a gun equipped, I can still use my hands while this dude's flying around on my shoulders. You pick him up, toss him off your shoulders just like you normally would. That part doesn't change very much. The only thing that's changed really is that it rides on your back and you can use stuff when you're holding it. So the Argentavis I want to talk about, and this really applies to Argentavis's, Tapajaras, and also Pteranodons. So Argentavis, Pteranodons, and Tapajaras. So this rule kind of applies to all three of them. They will not auto fly when you jump on them anymore. So if you hop on them, he just doesn't take off flying anymore, which I really, really, really like. They can all benefit for what they call Valerian reins. We'll get to Valerian reins later on. We'll get to that once we get to the items and past most of the creatures that we're going to talk about. You have the ability to move backwards with all these flyers now. They can walk backwards. That's so nice. And the fact of not jumping off. So it's a little TLCs like that I think really give it a little bit better. All right, so next up is the Bigfoot, the Gigantopithecus. So on the surface, he doesn't look too different, right? Looks about the same. Big gorilla, run around on his shoulders. I love these things. I have one on my PvE server right now that I'm playing. They're awesome for cave diving. So this girl, she got some cool stuff. Never mind the 1.5 million things I have in my inventory. So ape armor is something you can get now. It's actually an armor that goes on them. It equips. See how I get the shield and the body armor on this guy? So it gives them extra armor, which is pretty gnarly. They can also be equipped with various objects, much like the mantis. So for instance, I'm going to put my pick on this one. And now, oh God. Come back here. And now I can harvest things with it. It works like whatever I'm grabbing. So these guys are incredibly more useful for a lot of things now, which I like. I thought it was a cool addition when they did it with the mantis, but I often thought it's a gorilla. Wouldn't it be kind of smart, like basic tools and stuff? But they took this to a whole nother level. You can still equip helmets like you normally would, but honestly, this gets even better. I can put armor on him, right? I can wield tools, simple tools or weapons on him, right? That's pretty cool. He'll auto garden for you. If you have crop plots nearby, he'll pick all the crops out of them. He'll clean them all out. Plus, he gets a massive increase to the spoil timer of those things in its inventory, making the Gigapithecus pretty useful, even just for hanging out at your base, man. Like this made it totally worth it. But we're not done with this thing yet. So you're able to craft 2 different types of barrels with this thing. And these are in that smithy that I just showed you in the beginning. You can craft oil barrels and you can craft barrels of monkeys. Monkeys. I'm sorry, let me be more precise. Just when you think something can't get any more fun to use, it's very simple. See, step 1 is that you enable turret mode, right? Step 2 is that you put this thing on aggressive. Bam! Boom! He will throw explosive oil barrels at things. And as you can see, he's got no problem holding his own when he does that. The other thing that we can do is throw barrels of monkeys. And yes, it's exactly what I said. Barrel of monkeys. There we go. So he throws the monkey, and out pop up a bunch of little Mesopithecises that go attack whatever it's supposed to. He's created a little minion army that are going to attack this thing. It's really hard to keep my composure and give you precise instructions while watching this happen. This is priceless. This is, oh my god. So this is another barrel that you put on turret mode. He throws the barrels and out pop a bunch of tiny Mesopithecises, and they go and attack whatever it's supposed to be attacked instead. In this case, it's a tech stego, and in this case, this tech stego is a fairly good level. But eventually, the little monkeys get aggressive, and it looks and they will attack everything that the Gigantopithecus is trying to attack. This is just another layer of what has made this thing awesome. Just awesome. So you also have the options in here to hide. Go back in here. You can tell it which barrels to use. You can hide its shield. You can hide the chest piece. You can show the range. You can make it so it starts gardening. And there's also a quick turret mode and aggressive option there as well. So you can immediately start doing that. You don't have to do it the long way around like I did. The Gigantopithecus is probably one of the highlights, I think, to this mod. I thought they were fun before, and then with the TLC they got a little bit better, but with Kraken's better dinos, these guys got hilarious. These are base defense, these are helpful around the base, they can resource harvest for you because they can use tools. Like this does everything. Does everything. I love it. The Gigantopithecus. The Swiss Army knife of Ark now with Kraken's better dinos. So next up, we're going to talk about the Pachyrhinoceros. This is one that really jumped out at me as dinos that were cool, but didn't really have a whole lot of uses. The Pachyrhino has changed significantly. I've always loved the way they looked. I thought they were neat looking, but the trike was obviously always a bigger and better thing. If you were looking for berry gatherers, there were better berry gatherers. The really only super use that this guy had before was the ability to spit that cloud out that would calm dinosaurs down. And what I would always use this guy before for was I would sit him by a taming pen, and anything that I was taming passively, if I scared it like a Gigantopithecus or a horse, if I spooked it and I was waiting for the aggro to drop on it or waiting for it to stop being scared, I could shoot the calming smoke out of this and calm it down. In PvP, it does have more of an more uses because it can also aggro things around it as well, and I'm sure you've probably seen them do that in the wild. This is a lot different. So it's increased gathering for wood. It's basically what the mammoth used to be, and it gets a 20% weight reduction on wood. and has a bunch of new pheromone attacks. The other thing to note with this guy is that there's another saddle that you can get that's you can get it at a lower level. It's a 1-seater saddle, so you can have just a 1-seater saddle on it, and then once you get to the point where you unlock the 2-seater, you can put the 2-seater saddle on it. It harvests berries a bit better. It does harvest crops a little bit better, but to be able to harvest wood, I think it makes it a little bit more worth it, and I like that because there's a lot of these tames, a lot of these creatures in the Ark universe that fell by the wayside because they might have been cool, but they didn't really have anything to add. This mod really levels the playing field on a lot of these tames that wouldn't normally be used, but it also adds things to some of the more popular tames as well. So I think it rounds the game out. I think it rounds a lot of the tames out, and I think running this on a server, you're going to see a lot more uniqueness within tribes doing their own style, using their own tames, and they can, and it's more viable now. It has normal attack. Then you have, you know, the regular poison, your cloud attack thing that has to wear down for a certain amount of time. So you have a couple different options here. So what you can actually do is, because this has a bunch of different pheromones and you only actually have so many hotkeys, is you can actually assign these things to different gas things. So I can assign my right click buff to be a bunch of different things. I can assign this a bunch of different types of buffs, and they all do different things now, a lot different than they used to be. You still have your rage, but you got a couple other ones. So what we have, and we're gonna sit back and talk about it, you have an XP booster that causes your tribe dinos within range to receive double XP boost, and it lasts for 6 minutes. You have fortitude, and that'll reduce food and water drain of your tribe players and dinos by 25%. And it gives you better hyper and hypothermal insulation, and it lasts for about a minute. You have food drain, doubles food drain of all players and dinos within range that lasts for 5 minutes. All players and dinos. You also have adrenaline. It affects all players and all dinos in range except Packy Rhinos, but it increases their speed by 50%, and it regains stamina at the rate of 0.5 per second. Reduces torpor rate at -10 per second. So you have a bunch of different uses for these guys now, plus the ability to harvest wood better, plus the ability to harvest berries better, plus the ability of getting the saddle earlier on. The Packy Rhino is a viable solution for a lot of things now. PvE or PvP, I think this guy makes it worth it now. Between the XP boost and the adrenaline boost, I really like the adrenaline boost. But the food drain's really good too, especially when you're trying to tame things and you want because that applies to wild and tamed dinos. If you're out taming something and to bring one of these guys out, you can use that to drop its food very quickly and get that quick tame in really done. So that's the Packy Rhino. That's another one that really shone out to me that I thought was very much changed and very much worth it now. So this is something everybody uses, a T-Rex. So the T-Rex changed a little bit. Not too much, but enough that I really like it. So first we're going to look at the water. If you notice, before the T-Rex would do a swimming animation by this point. Doesn't do it anymore. He's walking still. So they don't actually start getting like swimming submerged until they're actually down a decent way in the water. I'm still walking on the water below me. That's kind of cool. The roar attack can actually be used while I'm moving still. And if you notice the sprint speed, look at the sprint speed's a little bit quicker on him too now. Little things to the T-Rex. T-Rex didn't need much. It's a powerhouse in the Ark universe. Everybody uses these guys for boss fights, for base defenses, for raiding. It's a staple. And if you notice, the yell's actually a little bit different too. It's like Jurassic Park T-Rex yell. So, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the T-Rex is while the changes might not have been very different, might not have been a whole lot, just a little bit of things that only made sense in my opinion. But they added something to everything. T-Rexes really didn't need anything. These guys were already awesome. They already pump out a lot of damage. They're already, like I said, kind of a staple, one of the staples to the Ark game and dinosaurs in general. All the dinos in this mod, in the Ark universe, get updates here. Even the T-Rex. So here's something that I want to talk about, right? Trikes. We all know trikes. Trikes are another useful tool early on in the Ark universe. Help you defend yourself a little bit. Help you pick up berries. But they got better. Say hello to the TrackTribe. So they have news. They added the Tech Trike, which is really just the trike with the bionic skin on it. It has slightly better stats. Now, even regular Triceratops in the Better Dinos mod are bigger. Their stats are also increased by about 50%. So this makes these guys a bit bigger, but they require superior kibble to tame now instead of the lower versions like they do. They get more damage. They have a charge attack that scales with their melee, and it inflicts armor-piercing attacks. They have a pack dino. They get a leader of a pack, much like the Allosauruses or the Raptors. They get a pack alpha. You have a stomp attack. You have a taunt attack. You could be, yeah, like you have a bunch of stuff that you can do with these guys. They cause 20% reflected damage with melee attacks when they hit on the horn side of things. The saddle requirement was raised to 34, but that was really just to counteract all the stat increases. But the other thing that you really want to pay attention to is, and I'm in game creative mode, so I can just kind of pull this out for you. There's a trike platform saddle. So it's not big, it's not huge, but it is a tiny little platform saddle that you get on your trike now. Again, I like this. I think trikes were always a little smaller when they first came out. The size difference is better. The ability to put a platform saddle on them makes them more of the workhorse dino that they were intended to be and what they should have been. Plus, with the pack bonus, I don't know. I like it. I think the trike got better, a lot better. So these are just a few of the dinos that I've went over just in this mod, mainly because I just didn't want this to take a terribly long time. But please understand that every single creature, almost every single creature has gotten some sort of update to the smithy, because that's what we want to talk about. And where are we at? I think it's in, nope. Not in extensions. Not in costumes. Where? There we go. So Valerian Reigns. This is an addition costume to just about any flyer, and it increases and gives special abilities to every single one of your flyers. Now, the toughened hide, we talked about certain animals will drop tough hide or better hide versus normal hide. So you'll have a lot of different items that you'll need equipped. If you notice, I got some tough hide in here, and that's because I spawned in a couple of dinos and killed them off earlier. It's some of the bigger dinosaurs or the plated dinosaurs are going to drop those things for you. But the Valerian Reigns are where it's at if you like flyers. So the two things to pay attention to Valerian Reigns is the durability stat and the armor stat. Now, the armor is obviously just going to change what your armor is, where the durability is going to affect how big of a value of a buff it's going to get. So again, this applies to any flyer, but we're going to talk about I'm going to go run down the list real quick just to let you know what it does for everything. So starting with Wyverns, it increases your speed and your rotation rate. Your Quetzal gets increased speed and a stamina boost. The Pteranodon gets extra stamina and reduced cooldown on the barrel roll. Argentavis get a speed bonus and enhanced stamina. The Griffin gets extra stamina from benefits of the armor and the ability to pick up larger than usual creatures. Basically, you use the same weight as the Argent used to be before the TLC came along, so you can pick up a lot of stuff with the Griffin. The Moth receives extra stamina and the ability to fly backwards, not just walk backwards. Pelagornis got a stamina boost. The Tapejara, you got a stamina boost. The Rock Drake increased attack speed, increased movement speed, and rotation rate. The Snow Owl got increased stamina and increased the dive bomb velocity. The Managarmr got a stamina boost, increased step height with the jumps, reduced the base stamina use for the jumps, and the ability to use a bite attack while swimming. The Gas Bags got increased gas and oxygen ratio and reduced stamina for the air control. This is awesome. None of this seems crazy to me, right? Like, none of it seems over the top. It all seems just fine. Making all these flyers a little bit more even-keeled, a little bit more matched, so that you're likely to not see an army of Wyverns and Griffins and Argents everywhere you frickin' go. Like, you might see some other cool stuff, right? When you read a lot of the dossiers on these animals and then you play with them in the game and you're like, this doesn't match up. I think Kraken's Dinos, Better Dinos, brings the creatures closer to what they should have been, in my opinion anyway. It's my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. So a couple of the other items that you can create is the Orb of Staying Power. So you can create this thing just off of stone and you put it on as a costume, like you would like a saddle skin for a dino. And what this does is it weights it down completely. It basically works like if you're using S Plus and have the hitching post. It basically works like that, minus the hitching post that just stands there, and it'll have a skin over top of it to kind of let you know that it has the Orbis staying on it. But if you're not using S Plus, so if you have an Oviraptor or a Dung Beetle or things that have abilities that have to be put on Wander in order for you to use those abilities, you end up weighing them down or sticking them in a cage or doing something like that to get the benefits. You don't have to do that with the Orbis staying power. You just throw that on them. You don't have to put weight on them. You have to do anything. It'll stay in place and do what it's supposed to do with being put on Wander, but not, it won't run around. It'll stay there. The other thing I want to talk about is some of the platform saddles. We got platform saddle extensions, which are easy to make, like the extensions for, well, that's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? You know what that means. It extends the platform saddles out. But a couple of creatures got platform saddles. The Krakens crab from Aberration got platform saddle. A mammoth, thank God the mammoth got a platform saddle. It was about time that the mammoth had a platform saddle. And you still have, you still have all the other normal platform saddles that you would typically see. And then also the trike. We talked about the trike. The trike got a platform saddle as well. There's a lot more to this mod. There really is. There's a lot of other consumables. But this is primarily dinos. There's some items, some saddles, but this is wrapped around the dinos. If you're looking for new buildings, not in this mod. If you're looking for new weapons, not in this mod. But if you're looking for an awesome, the way dinos probably should have been, this is the mod, in my opinion. And it does so much. Like, it just makes so many more animals active, viable without breaking the game for you. And there's plenty of other things. Dire wolves can actually wear saddles now and get that better armor on top of having a pack bonus. Hyenodons will actually come in various sizes. Certain pack animals you'll see that will come in various sizes. And if you find a hyenodon that's large enough, you can actually ride the hyenodon. Titan boas are another one that'll come off in random sizes. A lot of the craftable resources, certain mammals will create mammalian milk, and you can use that. Let me toggle this over to the preserver. So we'll go in here to check out these recipes. Shark repellent does exactly what you think it was. It keeps sharks away from you. Well, undetected, I should say. Cthulhu's blood works as nameless venom. If you eat, you can actually eat this on your own, and it increases your stats, but also does direct damage to you at the same time. Alduin's breath is craftable wyvern's milk. You can just make it, and like I said, the mammalian milk, if you notice it's in there, you're going to need that for that as well. The rotten gloop is treated. It's easier to tame some of the carrions. Sugar candy, you always had prime meat for carnivores, but you never had. You could use vegetables for herbivores, but a lot of times it really wasn't that much quicker. This will make that a little bit better. The blood globs too. You can actually tame the leeches and the lampreys now and actually use them. So I apologize ahead of time for rushing through this, but I really didn't want to make a mod review for this one that was 17 hours long, which it very well could have been. But I wanted to touch just on some of the keynotes that really jumped out at me when I went through the mod review and started reading about how all the dinos worked, and I got the chance to play around with them a lot too. If you're playing Ark, you're part of the reason, if not the bigger reason why you're playing, is the ability to tame dinosaurs and breed them and do what you want with them. The restrictive part about Ark is that if you wanted to be successful at fighting bosses or protecting your base or fighting other players, you always leaned on certain dinos because there was plenty of others that, while they looked cool, fell off the wayside. And this mod brings a lot of those creatures up to par with the rest of the other ones. So not only it gives your community, if you're running a server, it gives your community more options. And that's what I love. I love, if I've adminning a server or playing on a server, I like seeing different bases using different dinos, like everybody doing things differently. It's borderlining. It gets a little redundant sometimes when you fly around and you see everybody has the same square house with the same 5 tames sitting in there because they're the only tames that are worth a damn. Not anymore. Not anymore at all. I recommend this mod to anybody running a mod, period. I don't have any critiques. I tried to find some. I honestly don't. You know what I got? And I got one thing. It doesn't look like the Allosaurus made the list on here. I looked and looked and looked, and I didn't see an update for the Allosaurus. Probably because the Allosaurus doesn't need one, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to bring that up anyway. But that's like the only thing I got. That's it. One piece of advice I would say, though, and we'll go back in here because I want to show you something just for reference. So if you notice, the Alduin's Breath, for instance, requires red crystallized sap, which is normally just on extinction, and that's it. Now, in Aberration, the red gems are the equivalent. So you can use red gems as red crystallized sap, or you can be on extinction and use it the other way around. You can use the red crystallized sap as red gems. What I would highly advise, though, is if you're going this route, if you're going to use this mod, you should already be using it, but just in case you're not, Structures Plus. Structures Plus, the S Plus grinder gives you the ability to craft a lot of the resources from other maps and versions that you normally wouldn't get. So if you're on this map, if you're on Ragnarok, or if you're on Valguero, and you want access to those things that might not necessarily be there, then you better have S Plus, because it's going to give you access to convert a lot of that stuff over to usable resources in this mod. That's about all I got. Again, huge mod. I love it. So if you played the mod, if you used it before, if you like it, throw something in the comments about your favorite tame and why, maybe like what it actually does and what it jumps out as you as. We can kind of fill the comments bars up with all the creatures and the dinos that I didn't go over, because Lord knows there's a long list of them. And also, if there's something else that you want to see, if you want to see another mod review done, a different mod review, maybe about your favorite mod or a mod you're thinking about looking into, shoot me a comment, let me know. I'll try to jump into it as soon as I can. And also, like I said, we'll be throwing the description or the link to this mod's Steam Workshop link in the description, as well as a quick reference. Again, it'll be on the Steam Workshop, but it'll be a quick reference, a long list of everything that this mod does, and it includes a lot of the spawn codes. If you're an admin trying to spawn these dinos in, you can't run like a normal... for instance, like the toad, like you can't spawn a regular toad in and assume that it's going to be the better dinos version of it. It won't be. It'll be a vanilla one. And periodically you'll notice, it's not showing up here, periodically you'll notice if you try to spawn one of those in, it'll have a little tag above its name saying vanilla, and that means that it's not the better dino version. That's Kraken's Better Dinos in a nutshell. Again, I apologize for it being a smaller mod review, that I didn't cover everything that this mod had entailed. But I want to try to keep these mod reviews lengths down a little bit. We got gorillas with barrels. I should have literally just shown you the gorilla with barrels of monkeys. I feel like that would have been it. We could have done like a 5-second video of that gorilla throwing barrels of monkeys at that stego, and I think that would have been the highlight to it. But anyways, I'm out of here, and thanks for hanging out, guys. Till next time.